One of the most common questions I get asked is, what is psyllium husk? And do I need whole or can I use powdered psyllium husk? And what's the difference? Do I use more? Do I use less? It's so confusing. Here's a quick video to explain everything you need to know. Psyllium husk is an absolutely wonderful ingredient in gluten-free baking. It's a soluble fiber that comes from the plant Plantago ovata. It's very commonly grown in India, but it is grown all over the world. The plant produces gel-coated seeds, which are then used to create our psyllium husk. My absolute favorite binder to use in gluten-free baking. It is so water absorbent and it kind of creates a gel-like structure, which really helps to mimic the effects of gluten that we get in baking. It also is fantastic in retaining moisture in your baking to avoid that really crumbly, terribly gross and dry gluten-free baking. Psyllium husk is an absolutely fabulous way to get more fiber into your diet. Fiber is a type of indigestible carbohydrate, which comes from plant-based foods. There's two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. The soluble dissolve in water and become a gel during digestion. Gives that full feeling in your stomach. And it does the same thing for our baking. There are so many health benefits to psyllium husk, and that's why it's one of the main ingredients in Metamucil. It is absolutely fantastic for gut health, but it also has cardiovascular effects, prebiotic effects, and it can even give you beautiful, glowing, healthy skin. So if you can eat psyllium husk, I highly recommend using it in your baking. There are two different types of psyllium husk that you can buy in the store. One is called whole psyllium husk, and these you'll see are a little larger, kind of flaky-like substance. And then there's also the psyllium husk powder. And this is just the psyllium husk that has been ground down into a fine powder. They're both exactly the same as far as nutritional content. However, when you're baking with them, they do give a little bit of a different result in your baking, so you can experiment with that to find out yourself which you prefer.
So how do you make that choice? There are a few things to consider. First is the texture. With whole psyllium husk, it will give a more rustic feel, kind of like whole grains do, and a bit of a coarser texture and a heartier consistency. Whereas the powdered psyllium husk will give a smoother, finer texture and improve the flexibility of your dough. Also consider the hydration. Whole psyllium husk has less surface area, so it will take longer to absorb the moisture and more time needed to gel. Whereas the powdered will absorb a lot quicker, but you'll need to make sure to watch to not overhydrate your dough. Some people like to recommend to use one or the other for certain types of baking. However, I think it's truly up to you. So I give you this information and let you experiment and figure out your specific likes.
However, for a lot of us, we can only get one type of psyllium husk. So I want to show you how to use psyllium husk no matter which type you get for any recipe. To demonstrate the difference between powdered psyllium husk and whole psyllium husk, I'm going to first show you the difference between volume and weight. Because powdered psyllium husk has been ground down into a really fine powder, it has more surface area that will be exposed to the water. I'm going to show you how much 1 tablespoon, which is 15 milliliters of ground psyllium husk, it weighs about 12 grams. Then I'm going to show you the same amount of whole psyllium husk weighs only 5.5 grams. So it's about half. So therefore, if you look at the amounts, they are both 1 tablespoon, but they weigh completely different. So in order to get the same amount of psyllium husk, we need to double the amount of whole psyllium husk compared to powdered psyllium husk. And this is why people will often say, if you have the powdered psyllium husk, just use less. So this is how you figure out exactly how much. Just go by weight and not volume. If you use volume, you're going to have a way more of a jelly-like effect from the powdered psyllium husk than the whole psyllium husk. So therefore, I will need to use more volume, but the exact same weight of the whole psyllium husk than the powdered psyllium husk, so you can use either of these in your recipes. You can also take whole psyllium husk, if that's all you can get your hands on at home, and you can just grind it in your blender or a coffee grinder, and then you will get up close to this powder. So remember, whole psyllium husk or ground psyllium husk, Just make sure you measure by weight and not volume, and you can use the same weight in any recipe. You will just get those little bit of a different effect in your final bake, but they'll both work excellently. I hope this helps, and happy baking, everyone.
And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and give me a positive comment and share it with anyone you think would enjoy it. And remember to please subscribe and hit that bell for more.